I was very close to sending them the email that Patrick had started this story with, saying that they were the worst part about comic collecting in 2023. But there's no reason to do that because, one, that's trying to shame them, and they already don't have a sense of shame. They bought 17 copies of Dark Spaces, Wildfire's #1 across 4 different covers. And everything they were buying was to be sold online, resold.
In the Midwest, you know the best is there waiting, so come and join the conversation. I still approve, fan and artist and creator too. This is how the challengers do. What? Keep the conversation moving along. Keep reading comics, keep your local store strong. If it's hard, then it's a job for the challengers. Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers, a comics industry business podcast with Patrick Brower and
Willy Dowdell. Last week, we touched briefly on some comics that were on our radar as things that people could look out for.
Right.
And one of them was Indigo Children.
Yes.
Now, at that point, I don't know if you had read it.
I had not.
And I definitely had not read it. We were going off of solicitations, and we were talking about how
their viral marketing thing and how we didn't like it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how it's not that we didn't like it. It's just that it's not for us. I think that kind of stuff we talked about last week is fun for the consumer, but not the retailer. However, since then, we got an email from the writer Kurt
Pyers.
I was going to invert the I and the R, so I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you jumped in.
Kurt Pyers is currently writing the It's Only Teenage Wasteland miniseries at Dark Horse that I actually like a lot.
Nice. Well, in keeping with that, he sent us the first 4 issues of Indigo Children.
Mm-hmm.
And you read number 1.
Correct.
And I read numbers 1 through 4.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really good.
Yeah, I really liked it. I could have read more issues, but I actually didn't want to read too far ahead because that's usually when I stop reading a series.
Yeah.
When I'm like 4 months ahead of the book, by the time 5 comes out, I'd already forgotten what happened.
Because there's such a long lag between...
Because for me in this instance, there's 4 months, at least, between when I've read those issues and then when I read the next one. So I'd rather not read ahead and just start reading it in print with issue 2.
The first issue is double size.
Mm-hmm.
The second issue is normal. The third issue is like size and a half. And it's really good. Everything works. It's weird to say that because it doesn't look like it would. And I'll be completely dead honest. When I read the solicitation and I saw the listing in previews, I thought, oh. Yeah. And we ordered real low.
Yeah, some of the reason we ordered low is just because this is not a creative team that has a lot of fan base behind it. Yeah. So not a lot of people are going to pre-order it sight unseen. And that basically needs what the creators are doing, which is sending out preview copies, either print or PDF, to retailers so that retailers can read it and go, oh no, this is really good. And then up their orders accordingly and then probably hand sell it, which is what it's going to take when the book actually comes in. Like the joke of this is that we are very high on it the week after pre-orders close on Managed Comics.
So nobody can add it now.
You can add the series. You're going to get it with issue 2.
Yeah.
So it's really going to have to be a thing where the week it comes out, we have to literally put it in people's hands and go, you need to read this. This is really good.
You do need to read it. It is very good.
Yeah, definitely good for folks that we had talked about it as a cross between Department of Truth and like Umbrella Academy, I think.
Right.
And it's definitely superhero fans who read stuff like Department of Truth, I think, would really enjoy it. It's more about investigating the mystery of the Indigo Children than it is really putting you in their headspace and making it that kind of superhero book. It's more something weird and superheroic maybe happened, and someone is trying to figure that out.
Yeah, time has passed. They're more like Indigo grown-ups.
Young adults. Yeah.
It's gripping. It's real good.
Yeah, it's nice and spooky in how it approaches like the superpowered elements. And the investigative part is nicely tense. It's not just someone going around and talking heads and whatever. There really is a sense of like mystery and danger to it. It's propulsive, even in that like the non-superpowered part.
Speaking of mysteries and danger and investigations, did I talk about No One #1 last week?
Investigating this, investigating that.
Investigating.
General
investigation.
I don't know if you mentioned it last time, but you've mentioned it in general.
I really enjoyed No One #1. It's part of Kyle Higgins's Massiveverse, although it doesn't necessarily feel like it, because Massiveverse, you think of the Radiant series is.
Yeah, American Tokusatsu, basically. It's riffs on your
Power Rangers
and Kamen Rider and stuff like that.
But No One, I've been describing it as criminal meets powers.
Okay.
Because it is a crime noir story.
So, incognito.
With a superhero. Yeah. But I mean, that's you don't want to say it's one thing.
Okay.
And also,
Incognito meets, let's say, criminal.
Most people don't remember Incognito.
It's the one thing that's out of print. What's up with that?
I have the worst time remembering the name of that book.
Yeah, it's the weirdest thing about Incognito is that...
It's not over here.
I was just checking. I don't know.
Yeah.
Is that it's another Brubaker Phillips thing, and it's like the one Brubaker Phillips Marvel printed series that never got reissued.
Wasn't that Wildstorm at the time?
No. It was Icon.
Was it?
Yeah. It was around the time they were doing Criminal. And all of Criminal got reprinted at Image. Incognito? Nope.
No.
Also unfinished, I think. I thought there was supposed to be like a third part that just never came out.
Huh.
And at this rate, I would be shocked if it ever did.
Anyway, No One is very, very good. I enjoyed everything from the writing, the art, the colors. It's very criminal-esque coloring,
cool,
if you will. The lettering is great. There is a bonus component. This is your added value section of No One, where there is a podcast featuring two of the reporters in the comics. And on the podcast, they're played by Patton Oswalt and she's all that. I forgot her name. Rachel Lee Cook. Yeah. And again, that's the kind of thing is like, oh, that's a neat extra thing. I will never listen to it.
No.
I have so little time for the podcasts I do listen to. Thank you for everyone who's listening to this podcast right now. It's very kind of you. Mm-hmm. But I like that they're doing it.
Yeah.
I don't want to feel like I'm missing out.
No, I don't think you're obligated to listen to it.
But I mean, it's just another part of the larger Kyle Higgins Massiveverse vision.
Sure.
You know, they've done real world meetups. They've gone to locations in the real world that are in the book, mainly in like Joliet, Lockport area.
Yeah, Lockport. Yeah.
But anyway, No One comes out this week, and I really liked it. And it's always heartening to have new books down the line that you're like, yes.
Yeah, I mean, certainly stuff that wasn't even on our radar. It's one thing when it's, the same team that did Dracula MF.
I was going to segue right into that, so go ahead.
Announcing that they've got a new graphic novel coming out in October called Parasocial. That sounds great. But it's even better when it's a creative team in a book that didn't exist for you before. It's not just creators that you like producing more material, which is great, but it's creators that you weren't even a fan of necessarily, or a book that you never even thought to wait for is now something that you're excited about. It's nice.
That's one of the things that usually when I'm on off panel at the start of the year, David will always say, what are you looking forward to this year? And my cop-out answer is, the things that I don't know that exist yet.
Yeah.
And Parasocial will be one of them.
Oh, yeah, man.
That's a thing exciting. That we had no idea that was coming out. But, man, what a year to get two original Erica Henderson graphic novels.
At least two.
In the same year.
We don't know what else is coming out.
Yeah, and at least two, if not more, Tilly Walden graphic novels.
Yes.
I mean, it's almost an embarrassment of riches.
It's true.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful to have things like that. It's wonderful to have books that are coming down the pipeline. At the start of this year, I didn't know that Peacemaker Tries Hard was a thing, but now the book looks perfect.
It really looks great.
So many good comics coming out.
They really are.
I had so many segues that could have gone from what we were saying. Literally, I had one. I'm like, I can immediately dovetail. I'm like, well, we're not done with this part yet. Mm-hmm. And then I think I'll jump into... I think this will, hopefully, for the listener, the last time that I really rail against this particular topic.
Okay.
Because it's never going to stop.
No.
but usually I just complain about how many variant covers there are for a week. This time I have...
You took notes?
I did. What I did was I printed out the list of what's coming out next week, and it's a very, very variant cover heavy week for the 15th of March.
And I mean, this is just a list of what we're getting next week.
Right, and that's a key point. I'm going to be listing off titles and number of covers. Those are just the covers that we at Challengers are getting. That's not to say that's the sum total of available covers.
Yeah. If it's a Dynamite book, assume that there are at least a quantity of a multiple of 10 more.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the Dynamite books on this list have a minimum of 20, if not more, covers per book. But
Dynamite's one of the few companies where when you're ordering in almost any publisher, it's cover A, cover B, cover C. Dynamite is one of the only publishers I can think of where they have cover ZA, ZB, ZC.
Because they have more than 26 variant covers.
Yes, which is insane.
Now, the easy argument is, if we hate variant covers so much, why do we stock them?
Sure. Or conversely, no one's making you carry them.
Right. Now, a lot of the covers on this list are special orders only. Through Managed Comics, people have the ability to go in and order whatever covers they want, so long as they do it before the final order cutoffs are due.
Which, I mean,
people do.
Yeah, considering that in general we carry very few variant covers for the shelf, this is the only way that they would get them from Challengers. And maybe in the city. Like, not every store is going to carry every cover, and very few stores will carry every cover for the shelf.
For example, next week, Draculina Blood Simple #2 is out. That is a book that we do not stock for the shelf.
Correct.
It is club only, and we are stocking, or ordering, or have ordered for people, 5 separate covers.
Here's the joke. We actually ordered 6. The 6th one hasn't arrived yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's part of this we'll get into for other books. There are a minimum of 13 covers for Draculina Blood Simple, but so subscribers, club members at Challengers, have found 5 different covers that they wanted for this book.
Yep.
And again, this isn't even a book for the shelf.
Yeah.
This is just for subscribers.
Club only.
You know, it's written by Christopher Priest. It was a book that we, early on, when he took over Vampirella, we did decent with it, but then it fell to club only.
Yeah.
And then he pivoted from Vampirella to Draculina, so we tried that again for the shelf, and again immediately fell to club only.
Yep.
So, yeah, so there's 5... Subscribers have found 5 different covers, and that's not... We're not even talking the quantities per cover, just 5 separate covers. But let me jump back to the beginning. We're going to go down by publisher for the most part. Avengers Forever 15, we're stocking 2 covers, mainly because there's an Alex Ross villain cover.
There's an Alex Ross villain cover and also another one of those pixel art wraparound covers.
The pixel art wraparound cover isn't on my list.
Avengers Forever?
Yeah.
I thought it was this week.
Okay. I'm just... I literally printed this off of our... Well, this is printed off a website. Okay. So if that was for Marvel, if that was club only, it didn't make the list.
It wasn't club only.
Oh, well, it's not on the list.
Okay.
Captain America Symbol of Truth, there are 2 covers because there's an Alex Ross cover. Captain Marvel 47, 2 covers because there's an Alex Ross Juggernaut cover. Hellcat #1, we're getting 5 covers.
Wow.
And we're getting 5 covers for the shelf.
Yep.
There may have been a variant or 2 that didn't make this list.
Probably.
Because again, for the Marvel ones, they don't... The ones that are specifically club only don't make the Marvel list on the website. Hulk #13, which is a random issue of Hulk.
Yes.
4.
That seems like
4 covers. It's not the last issue of the series. It's the second to last issue.
Mm-hmm.
It is, I think, a Ryan Stegman written issue. 4 separate Hulk covers.
Yeah.
Miles Morales Spider-Man #4. 3 covers because there's an Alex Ross Scorpion cover. Wolverine 31. 3 covers. One of them being an Alex Ross White Queen cover. Which should have been a Moral X-Men, but what have you.
Oh, there's a whole bunch of books where it's like the weirdest characters. Like there's one of the upcoming Wolverine issues is the Rhino. Is the Alex Ross painted variant.
Immoral X-Men, 2 covers. Okay, moving to DC, which is not a surprise with their covers because they do 2 covers for everything.
Correct.
It's just when they do extras. So Batgirl's 2 covers. Batman 133, we're getting 1 cover that should have been out this week.
We got a portion of that this week. They'd announced that the Art Germ Joker cover was going to be allocated, that there'd be 2 waves of it.
Yeah.
Luckily, we got just enough the first week for subscription members, and then the shelf copies are coming in this week.
Same thing with Poison
After
Ivy.
Everyone's already bought their comics.
Right.
And probably
And
will
don't
not
want
want an
it.
extra one.
Same thing with Poison Ivy number 10, cover D, that cover. And there's another, like the 1 in 25 and the 1 in 50 covers.
Yeah.
Both are
Okay.
a week late for whatever reason. Batman Incorporated, 2 covers. Batman The Adventures Continue Season 3, 2 covers. Danger Street, 2 covers. Multiversity, Harley Screws Up the DC Universe, 2 covers. Justice Society of America number 3, 4 covers that we're getting. At least 5 are available.
Wow.
Number 3. Number 3 of a 12-issue miniseries has 5
Weird.
covers. Lazarus Planet Revenge of the Gods, 2 covers. Superman Lost, 2 covers we're getting. Wildcats, number 5, 4 covers.
Oof.
So random.
Yeah.
Image, All Against All 4, 2 covers. Art Brut number 4, 3 covers. Black Cloak, we're getting 2. I'm sure there were like 4 or 5.
Probably were.
Hexware, 2 covers. I Hate Fairyland, we're getting 3. There's at least 4 that is standard. There's the Scotty Young cover, the Scotty Young Profanity cover,
Okay.
the Artist from the Inside cover, and then the Peach Momoko cover.
Okay.
So that is a standard for that book. Kaya, 2 covers. Little Monsters, 2 covers. Monarch, 2 covers. Nemesis Reloaded, at least 3 covers. No One, the aforementioned No One, number 1. We're getting 5 covers. There are definitely more. Noctera, number 12. Random issue of Noctera.
I think it's like the first one back after a break, maybe.
Okay. Well, there's at least 5 covers available.
Seems like
At
a lot.
least 5. Gunslinger Spawn, 2. Walking Dead, number 59, which is a reprint book, 5. 5 covers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Usually they only do 4. For the
Sometimes
bi-weekly
they
reprint book.
only do 3, which is rare.
I feel like 4 is more of the average.
But 5 has been cropping up a lot. All right. Now we're jumping into everybody else. Are you ready?
Yes.
Are you taking notes?
I am.
Okay. Ancient Enemies, the Ginny, number 1, one of the Frank Miller Presents books. 1 cover. There is a variant cover we didn't qualify for. Behold Behemoth from Boom, at least 4 covers. Berserker, number 12 from Boom.
The final issue of the series.
Well, the final issue of this arc.
Final issue of this series.
9 covers that we're getting. There are more available.
I'm sure they go up to like 1 in 200s and stuff.
Yeah.
That we did not qualify for.
Vampire Slayer, parentheses Buffy, 2 covers. Darkwing Duck, number 3, at least 20 covers. We will have 5 of them.
It's too many.
Oh, I agree. The aforementioned Dracula Blood Simple, 5 out of minimum of 13. Frank Frazetta, Death Dealer, number 10, a book we don't stock for the shelf, 2 covers. Harrower from Boom, 2 covers.
For issue 2?
Yeah.
It's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, the B cover is the 1 in 15 incentive.
Boom, I think, was one of the publishers at Comics Pro that was like, we're reducing our variant
Yes.
cover output.
By 15%. Speaking of Boom, House of Slaughter, number 13. We're getting 5. There's at least 6, if not more. Masters of the Universe, Masterverse, number 2, 2 covers. Chicago's own Caroline Cash, PP Poo Poo, number 69, 1 cover. Thank you, Caroline. Spy Superb, 2 covers. Star Trek number 5, 2 covers. Star Trek Defiant number 1, minimum of 4 covers. TMNT Armageddon Game number 6, minimum of 4 covers. TMNT Last Run in Lost Years number 2, minimum of 4 covers. That is a lot of covers.
It's a lot of variant covers.
Yeah.
Goodness.
So, again, because I bothered to print this out and do all the math ahead of time, I'll stop complaining about variant covers on the podcast. I will never stop complaining about it in the store.
No.
I definitely won't stop complaining about it on Wednesdays when I'm breaking down the Diamond invoice for the following week.
Or Tuesday when you're checking in the previous week's invoice.
Yeah. Boy, that's super fun.
Oh, yeah.
Am I right, everybody? No, I'm torn between people finding variant covers and ordering them via Managed Comics through our subscription service. It does all the work for us.
Yeah, it's purely additive because, again, these are ones that we would not order for the shelf.
But it takes as much time to check in and process and import a single variant cover as it does a stack of 20 Hulks or what have you. I mean, granted, it takes a little bit longer to count in 20 Hulks, but it's almost... You feel more productive when you have this giant stack of, 140 copies of Saga. You're like, that represents a pile of work.
Right.
And then when you have a stack of 10 books that are onesies of all different things, it's like that is a chore.
Yeah, there's less of a sense of accomplishment, absolutely.
Yeah. So, variant covers are a facet of life, and there you have it. You know what else is a facet of life, Dad?
What's that, Patrick?
I can't decide if I want to say customers complaining or people who are the worst parts of comics retail.
Oh, yes. What Patrick's referring to is we had an interaction over the internet. We had a gentleman, let's call him Shane, who took part in a recent 10% off coupon.
Let's call him Shame because it's full of shame.
Well, let's call him Shane. Pick my name at random. Shane H. Let's say that this Shane took part in a coupon that we had offered through our newsletter to
promote our new website.
Anyone who had signed up for our mailing list through our website to say, hey, check out our new website. Here's a 10% off coupon for your next online order. And this person ordered some stuff. They ordered multiple copies of just a few books, like 4 copies of Star Wars Mandalorian #2.
Hell to Pay #1 because they got options.
Like 3 copies of Hell to Pay.
Yeah.
Like 2
Somebody who's a dedicated comic book reader and who's just in it for the stories.
Yeah. Who's like, you know what I want? I want to collect only multiple copies of non-sequential issues. That's what I want my collection to look like. So they'd ordered these books, and they had not opted for bags and boards. And we do not include bags and boards with online purchases automatically. It's something you have to pay for.
If only there was a way that people were notified of that when they were buying a single issue.
It's on every single page. The reason why we don't include the bags and boards is basically the bags and boards cost us money.
Yeah, and the amount of single issue comics that we ship out is not a small number.
Yeah, and also, and this is maybe kind of crucial, essentially providing a free bag and board is like giving an additional 10% discount to every single comic book that we sell on the website.
Right.
Our profit margin on comic books is bad. It's not good. So an additional 10% discount is basically asking us to not carry single-issue comics on the website.
And let's not forget, this person already got a 10% discount.
Well, I was going to get to that.
Sorry.
Yeah, so this person had already got a 10% discount, and they had opted not to get bags and boards. So the comics, it was about 10 or 11 comics. They were put in a plastic bag together. That bag was then wrapped in bubble wrap. That bubble wrap was then put into a box, sealed up, shipped out. A few days later, we get an email. I'm not going to read it verbatim. I'm going to give you the gist of it. The gist of it is this person, because the books weren't bagged and boarded, and they really were packed kind of loosely. They were not packed loosely. I packed it myself. They were wrapped in bubble wrap. Wrapped in bubble wrap. The books came out kind of damaged. And they included 4 photos. One photo was legitimately a book that had a huge slice on it. And again, as someone who packed up these books, it didn't have a big slice on it when it was packed up. But I'm not going to push back on that.
It's also a diagonal slice. So even if the books were just loose in a box and you accidentally cut through it when you're cutting it open, it would be perpendicular to the cover.
Yeah, but it's a $3.99 book. I'm not going to push back on it. Fine, I'll give you the refund on that, even though I do not believe for a second that we shipped you a book that had a gigantic slice in it. A book with a gigantic slice in it would not even go on the shelves, let alone get packed up and sold to somebody. But then they included pictures of the other books that, you know, they how are they going to get their refund on this? How do we want them to ship them back to us? As though like a refund was automatically going to happen. Just what is the next step in the process for them? Not, can I get a refund on these? Just, how am I getting my money back? And they included photos of their books. And the books were, to a book, pristine.
I had no interaction with this order. Mm-hmm. I saw those photos. I enlarged them on my computer. I'm like, where's the problem?
Yeah. These were fresh books off the shelves, put in a bag, wrapped in bubble wrap, shipped out in a box. The books were fine. This person is kicking because I was so close to emailing him back and telling him this, he's someone who's going to flip these online. Because he bought them online, they weren't the 9.8 books that he thought they were going to be. They were shelf copies, 9.2s maybe.
A lot of these books come from Pangorana House where there's no such thing as a 9.8.
Yeah. So these books were off the shelf, fine, but the sort of thing that a speculator or someone who's going to flip them is going to look at them and go, oh no, these aren't 9.8s. So basically he's saying, these weren't 9.8s, I want my money back. Which, one, never said they were going to be 9.8s. Two, I hate saying it this way, kind of caveat emptor. Like, if you need the condition to be that precise, you need to be in a store.
Yeah.
Like, getting books shipped out online, they're going to be good copies. They're going to be near mint copies. They are not going to be gem mint 10s. Okay? So basically said, hey man, we're going to give you a refund on the book that had a cut in it. And again, I didn't get into I don't believe for a second that it shipped that way, but fine. But I said, we don't see any other damage in these books. Like, it just looks like regular shelfware. Like, what are you seeing? Didn't respond.
Nope.
A couple days later, we got the response. Guy asked for a chargeback on the entire order.
Because the merchandise showed up damaged.
Yes. Here's the thing that's the most frustrating about chargebacks. Chargebacks are like eBay's complaint process, where someone can ask for a refund, but even more onerous and less likely to go in favor of the merchant. eBay, you at least feel like there's someone who's maybe involved in mediating this. The chargeback is just, you are going to provide evidence, and that evidence is going to be
completely ignored.
Possibly passed along by Shopify, maybe not, but completely ignored by the credit card company. And then additionally, you're going to get charged $15 for the chargeback. So this asshole...
I would have said utter dickhead, but I'll allow asshole.
Here's the best part. Looked up this Shane, if you will, to see if they'd ordered anything from us before. They had one previous order a few months ago where they ordered 17 copies across 4 different covers of Dark Spaces Wildfire #1, the Scott Snyder IDW book that had just been announced as optioned for multimedia adaptation a day prior. At the time, they had also ordered, in addition to 17 copies of Dark Spaces #1 across 4 different covers, 17 bags and boards for those comic books, indicating that they knew precisely that we charge for bags and boards when we're shipping out books. So the whole, these weren't in bags and boards. No, you know that. Not only is it listed on every page that bags and boards are not included automatically, but you bought them before. But I guess, why waste the money on the bags and boards when you can just get a chargeback for your entire order? Insane to me. Definitely was fun waking up to that today.
It's the kind of thing where I said, wouldn't you at least want to email them and tell them what a complete fucking asshole they are? And you said, no, it's not worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I was very close to sending them the email that Patrick had started this story with, saying that they were the worst part about comic collecting in 2023. But there's no reason to do that, because one, that's trying to shame them, and they already don't have a sense of shame. They bought 17 copies of Dark Spaces Wildfires #1 across 4 different covers, and everything they were buying was to be sold online, resold. And this is the thing I put in the response to Shopify about the chargeback is they're complaining because they can't sell these at an increased amount. We're not a wholesaler. We never promised that was going to happen.
Right.
We promised you a $3.99 comic book, and that's what you got.
That you can read.
I'm sorry that $3.99 comic book is not something that can be an $11 comic book online. That was never a condition of our agreement. But yeah, there's no sense of trying to shame them because they don't have a sense of shame, and all it would do would basically be either them responding with more vitriol, which would just make me respond with more vitriol, which would just make everybody furious and upset and bitter.
It would make me happy, though.
But it would also potentially make it even more unlikely that we would be able to fight the chargeback, because now we've launched a personal attack on this Shane, if you will.
If you will.
And then additionally, you write a letter, you start this back and forth, and then that, what was it, Utter Dickhead? Posts that exchange on some forum or something, and then it picks up on social media, and suddenly you're the main character for the day, as everyone weighs in about the best way to run an online comic book storefront.
Yep.
But yeah, it was miserable. It made me incredibly angry, and it always sucks to feel helpless in these situations where you are being taken advantage of by a customer, and the intermediaries like Shopify and the credit card companies are basically like, we don't care enough about you to stop that.
Yep.
So despite, Shopify being our processor, they are not going to stop this. They are going to do the bare minimum of passing along information back and forth. And then early April, we're going to find out, we just deducted $90 from your
they've already
Shopify account.
They've already taken it, that money.
Yeah, that's in escrow, basically.
Yeah.
So that they can inevitably just give it back to the credit card company. Because the credit card company is going to be fine, Shopify is going to be fine, and this guy's going to make $75 when he already got $75 worth of product. We are going to lose $90 on the whole thing.
Yep.
And it is a very small percentage of interactions we've had across Shopify. I could probably count them on one hand, but each one of them is seriously like a dagger.
I'm very surprised Shopify doesn't have a plugin you can buy that will either try to mitigate these or something where they make money to try to
There's nothing.
do the basic level of
this
service.
This is why guys like
have.
that do it. There wasn't even an extended conversation about why he felt like he deserved a refund or what the middle ground would be. It was literally just, here's my problem, how am I getting my money back? Us saying, we'll refund you on the one that's obviously damaged. The rest of these are fine. And then immediately, I'll just do a chargeback. Which, I know that to a giant credit card company, the $75 or whatever is irrelevant for however much that guy probably spends on his credit card over however many years he's been a customer with them. But it's just like, man, it's the principle of the thing. Like, this guy is just getting his money back because he's unhappy. He's keeping the products. He's just unhappy, so he wants a refund. And it's like, that's not how it should work.
Correct.
That was infuriating.
It's always a crapshoot as to whether or not I want to bring these things up because, we do want to talk about all aspects of doing our job. But sometimes you're so angry about these things, you just, A, you don't want to talk about it, and B, it makes you madder. Yeah,
I mean, I'm more upset about it now than I was before I laid it all out verbally. But I think it's a thing that, I think anyone who's run a comic shop, especially one that has an online component, can relate to it. Anyone who's ever sold anything on eBay probably has at least one story about someone being a complete lunatic. You, Patrick, had an amazing series of exchanges with somebody who had bought an omnibus, your personal one that you had sold on eBay.
Yeah, it was a Garth Ennis Punisher omnibus, and this inexplicably worked out in my favor. But basically, they claimed it was horribly damaged, and it was a thing where, because this happens, I took photos of it as it was packed up. So I'm like, this is how it was sent out, and they basically, eBay had said, well, you have to accept it back.
Right.
So the guy had to return it. Mm-hmm. And it was, Molly was in the store at the time, and Serpent Crown guitarist Chris Carlson was there.
Yep.
So the return box showed up, and I'm like, let's film this. Let's just, before I open it, let's film it. Mm-hmm. And all it was a stack of like Dark Horse Star Wars comics into the shape of the size of an omnibus and wrapped up like it was an omnibus, put in the box.
Yep. So he could claim like, hey, here's the weight. Like I sent an omnibus.
Yeah.
And it's like, you didn't. You kept it.
So I was able to send that video into eBay being like, he didn't even send it back.
Yeah.
So it's not that I won. It's that I got to keep the money that he had paid for the book.
Right.
Which they had immediately put in escrow.
Of course.
But then they released it back to me.
Yeah. And I mean, that's, again, like, I don't like dealing with eBay.
I kept all those comics.
I've never had an eBay complaint, to my knowledge, go my way. I mean, maybe one of them. But most of them are just like, someone complains about the condition of a comic book, and you're like, the condition's fine. It's exactly what was in the photos. But then eBay's just like, no, we're going to side with the buyer, never the seller. It's like, part of me is always like, but you wouldn't have a storefront if you didn't have sellers. You can always get more buyers if you don't have products. Do you even have an online auction house? But yeah, it's irrelevant because there's no arguing with them. Like,
no.
Once they've made the decision, it's like, nope, we already took the money. Like, great, thanks.
I was going to say, you can't win. And I thought, no, I won. No, I didn't win. I just didn't lose.
Yeah.
That's the difference. I didn't win.
Right. If you'd won, that person would have been kicked off eBay forever.
And that person, I mean, blatant fraud.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And I mean, that's the thing. Like, it proliferates on sites like eBay and online storefronts like ours because it's so easy to do. Yeah. Because there's literally nothing stopping you from going to your credit card company and saying, oh, I wasn't happy, or it was broken, or whatever. And you provide, like, especially, like, one of the things that drives me crazy about this instance is that the only way you would consider any of the books that this guy got to be faulty or damaged is if you were similarly somebody who buys books to flip online. Like, if you were like, this is not going to grade out high enough for me to be able to resell it at a premium, then you might agree with this guy. But if you were anybody who bought a comic book to read it, or anyone who bought something to own it personally, you would look at these and go, this is fine. So it's like, I can't imagine what evidence he's going to provide that's going to be in his favor.
Yeah.
Because again, one of the things you can do at Shopify is like, okay, if you're disputing this chargeback, provide evidence that, like, the item was in good condition when you sent it. And it's like, I included a picture this guy sent me
showing you that the books are fine.
Of the book being in bad condition to say, no, here's a good condition book. This is his proof, not even mine. Yeah, not fun.
Unrelated, a completely different topic. Is there a way to block people from our web store?
I mean, you can always, when an order comes in, say no. But, right. I'll have to look into that. I don't think there is. Maybe. Not that
this random whomever, I don't know, whatever the made-up name was, Shane H. Not that they'll ever order from us again.
Yeah, I would be shocked. But I don't know.
No, I bet they will. I bet they're cocky enough to be like, they've got this book I want.
If they think they can work some scam or something, I'm sure they'll do it. Sure. Again, this is someone who's shameless. So why not? They would have to feel guilty in some way, and they never will.
And this is most likely not worth the effort, but should we just reject orders with multiple copies like that?
One of the things I think we should probably do is if it's clear that something is going to a reseller, multiple copies, hot books, probably holding the order. If they don't choose bags and boards, shoot them an email and say, hey, you didn't ask for bags and boards. These books are going to ship out together in a bag, but all of them are going to go in one bag together. Like, they'll be protected. They're going to come to you in fine condition. I want you to email me and tell me that you are aware that you are not getting bags and boards. The order's not going to go out until it does.
That's fair.
I want there to be proof that you know that, like, if you need these to be, like, the mintiest of the mint condition, that you are okay rolling the dice on not getting bags and boards for 35 cents each.
That's more than fair?
I think it is.
It still wouldn't hold up in a eBay or Shopify or whatever.
One of the things you can, like, there is a little section where you can, like, put exchanges in there. So if you had, basically, if someone is complaining that they weren't informed of X, you can then include the email that says, here's where I told them about X, and they verified it. Like, because, I mean, obviously, while Shopify isn't necessarily going to rubber stamp everything, they will put up a minimal amount of resistance if they feel like they are also being defrauded,
Yeah.
by association.
Nope, that's fair.
But yeah, we'll see how it goes. We'll give an update on this in a month, and that update's going to be Shopify
lost.
took the money.
Yeah. Yeah.
This guy got away with it because they always get away with it.
So, Dal, if you were to look at that exchange as, let's say, a chart with faces on it that range from smiling to frowning, where do you think
Frowning.
this would be frowning?
Yep, all the way at the end.
We had a club member come in who had bought a Fables back issue from us years ago.
Yeah.
That they just got around to reading. And inside this book was a little wellness chart. Like the pain scale that you would see at a doctor's office. But it was for your mental health.
Yeah.
And it were it to be put together, it would have a little dial you could move from the left to a smiling face all the way in a half circle arc to a frowny face.
Yeah.
And it was just the most random thing to be found
To be inside a Fables comic.
in a book.
Yeah.
And the best part was, they brought it in to show us.
Right.
But then also leave it packaged up with that book because that's where it came from.
Sure.
That's how they bought it. That's how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if that was a Vertigo marketing plan. Like, oh, how do you feel after you've read this comic? Are you happy? Are you suicidal?
Was it a sad issue of Fables?
Yeah. Most issues of Fables were sad. It was a neat little bonus to...
Yeah.
Like, you didn't just get a comic. You got some stranger genuinely caring about your well-being.
Yes.
Not us. Some
No.
stranger.
Yeah.
Whole different person.
Only strangers.
If anyone were to care about our well-being, and by anyone I mean people that own our building, they would have had the trash room not completely
Backed up in sewage.
back up in sewage multiple days in a row this week. And this is a thing that happens a couple times a year.
Yeah, I don't really know what caused it. It seems like something that you could probably fix for good, but no one ever has.
I feel like you would have to drill into the concrete floor and figure out where, if there's a
Like everything in the
turn
building.
or
Like everything in the building, it was built badly. And, 15 years later, we're all just living with that.
so it's this thick black sewage water goo that bubbles up out of the drain in the trash room. But depending on how much of it is, or if it's a heavy rain or whatnot, it'll then leak into the back hallway.
Yeah, that's when it's real bad.
And the good people at Black River Barbershop have a penchant for putting decorative throw rugs or runners in the back hallway. And they've already had to dispose of one set from a previous sewage backup.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure that the rug that's back there now, a very nice red and black pattern design rug, that has to get destroyed as well.
Oh, yeah.
There was one time it was so bad that we were so lucky that Nina from Black River had seen it coming and moved all of our boxes out of the way. This was not one of those times.
Nope.
It didn't flood that bad, but Stella was saving a bunch of boxes to help a friend move.
Yeah.
And I think some of those might have not made it.
Certainly the bottom level ones, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The sad part about that is on Tuesday I thought, what if I just pull these out in the garage to make it easier to load up? Then I thought, no, I'm not at a point where I do a whole lot of physical labor for the next month or so.
Sure.
Let's not. And I'd already gotten all the comics and lifted boxes and paid for it a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, they'll be fine back here. They're only slightly in the way. Ha 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 ha.
Ha ha.
Ha. Oh my goodness. Boy, was it... it smells real bad. It smells like poop.
Yeah.
And it's the kind of thing that we needed to go back in the back hallway repeatedly. So each time it's like, hold your breath, door's opening.
Yeah.
And just when you think it's okay, both you and Molly had walked out of the store and then walked back in. And as soon as you walk in, you're like, oh no, there it is.
Yeah.
We get a little used to it.
The smell was basically like a frog in a boiling pot of water, where it's just slowly getting warmer all the time, and the frog doesn't notice it, and the frog doesn't know to jump out. But you get outside and you come back and you're like, no, the store smells. Like, the store stinks. So, yeah, hopefully that's something that will not be the case when you work tomorrow. I hope.
I mean, by the end of the day, Wednesday, they had it cleared out, but not the smell.
Yeah.
Just the water. And I don't know that a plumber that you hire to fix a clog like that also has solutions for odors.
No. You just have to air it out and use air freshener and stuff.
You mean like a really long pass?
Yes, exactly.
Air that out.
Really air it
just
out.
Let it go. Yeah, man, it just smells real bad.
Yeah.
But again, it's a thing that we have happen to the store regularly.
Yep.
There's the normal, none of it's normal. The standard things we're used to that we've just had workarounds for in the building. And it's weird to see Black River have to worry about similar yet different things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, you've got the same kind of problem, but it's worse for you here, or this one is easier for you, or what have you.
Right.
But it's like, oh no, it's just the whole building.
Yeah, again, it was built badly 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's so full of tenants, either commercial or residential, that there's no fixing it. You'd have to evacuate the entire building and potentially rebuild it from scratch.
Yeah, to get our windows to stop leaking, they'd have to literally tear out the whole front wall and redo the windows and the decks above them.
The building was built badly, cheaply, quickly, and the person who built it is no longer associated with the building, so there's nothing to be done.
And it was literally the H.H. Holmes murder house type of thing where it was hire a bunch of builders, don't pay them when they quit, you hire newer builders, but less quality builders.
A level down because all the good builders won't work with you.
And you keep doing it until you just have like the bottom of the barrel people who are just getting stuff done.
Yeah, who are taking all sorts of shortcuts and additionally don't understand what everyone else had already done, so they don't know what needs to and doesn't need to be done.
And we only know this because the builders because we were the first tenants in the building while they were still working on the condos up above. Mm-hmm. And so the builders would tell us these stories.
Yeah.
15 years ago, though.
My favorite part was us having to take possession of the unit before they had installed locks on the front door.
Yeah.
And when we had to call the building owner to say, there are no locks. Like, we need the doors to be locked. Like, we've installed, like, carpeting and stuff.
And
like,
we're bringing product in.
Where are the locks?
Fixtures, yeah.
I was yelled at for interrupting him at home, which then eventually, when he realized that I was calling to say, there are no locks on your building, he realized, oh no, we should do something about that, and apologized.
Well, you did call during a Jewish holiday prayer service, Dal.
Well, I didn't know that, and also there were no locks on the doors.
That's true. It's very true. Oh, good times. Coming up on 15 years in just a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
We got this big party that's happening. Bunch of creators from C2E2 hopefully coming by. Mm-hmm. We say hopefully because while people said yes, we're not going to hold them to it.
Yeah, I never feel like it's locked in.
It's easy to say yes before you've worked a 10-hour day on the show floor.
Right.
And then have to trek all the way over to Bucktown from McCormick Place because it is not an easy drive.
No. As always, C2E2 is like a bus and a train or two buses or two trains.
It's funny, we got a email today that I haven't responded to yet from people at Read Pop like, hey, we want to do a thing for like Friday breakfast and we want to have you guys on a panel. It's like, no. There's no time for that.
No.
You picked the worst weekend for us.
Mm-hmm.
I most likely, let's just say no, I won't be at C2E2. So that would just leave you and you're not doing that stuff.
No.
So yeah, without me there on Friday, are you going to feel like you can back issue shop more?
I mean, I don't know what's going on as far as the store on Friday. I don't know if I'm going to have to be at the store on Friday.
Wait, I thought that it was always going to be Molly at the store.
I mean, it probably will be.
Yeah.
But I don't.
And Gina. Gina will be there.
Like, I don't. Yeah, I have no idea what's going to happen.
I'll be honest. I'm a little worried about Saturday at the store, but we'll cross that bridge in a few weeks.
Right.
Lizzie can handle it on her own.
Yeah.
This started back in November, but it came out this week. The March 6th edition of Publishers Weekly had a David Harper written piece about comics retailers navigating what's the new normal.
Uh-huh.
And I was part of that. I was one of the people that he talked to. By sheer coincidence, not anything I did or anything that David did, but everybody who was part of it had to send in a variety of pictures for the article. Mm-hmm. They used the picture of me as the header for the whole article.
Nice.
And it's one thing to have seen the digital version, like just like the online article.
Right.
But our comics niece, Holly Aitchison, had taken a photo of the actual print issue of the magazine, and it looks so good.
She's a good kid.
And it is such a... It's basically a photo that I had taken that, if you are my friend on Facebook, it is my Facebook header image, because we had just gotten these really great Kyle Starks caricatures of you and I.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do a photo of me and the caricature. So I'm standing... It's a horizontal... It's a landscape-shaped picture. And I'm in front of the manga section, and I got my hand out with a thumbs up to mirror image what Kyle had drawn for me. So I took that photo so I could drop in the drawing that Kyle had done of me in the empty space.
Right.
But I sent just the photo without the drawing in it to Publishers Weekly, along with like an exterior of the store and more. And the edict was, we want photos with people in them. So that's the whole header image for the article, and it came out great. And people have been very complimentary of it. After Holly had posted it, Leanna Kangas said, "We stand Patrick in this household." Danny Ward asked, she needs a copy for her locker.
Wow.
It's locker pinup worthy.
Wow.
Yeah, right?
Very nice.
So those are all adorable.
Congrats.
And it's weird because I know how many photos everybody was supposed to send in. And then there's, in the digital version at least, 3 quick headshots of 3 of the other people who were interviewed. And then a couple of photos of the books that we were talking about. And that's kind of it. So it's I got the main picture.
Look at you.
And it came out great. Yeah, all thanks to Kyle Starks. And I believe it was, God, I can't remember if it was Gina or Sam who took those photos. Because I did it, I tried to do it myself with the timer, and I didn't give enough empty space, so I had to wait until whoever came in to do it.
Sure.
And I literally can't remember. It was either Gina or Samantha.
Okay.
But one of them had done it to make it the good photo. And it's weird because I was in purple, and I had an Alzheimer's tie.
Okay.
And I had done a video about the... it's not until September, but George and I and Team 4 Fran are doing another Alzheimer's charity event. And because I was in purple, I posted about it and mentioned that the Alzheimer's tie, and mentioned it was for my mom, and then how I'd be telling people more about it later in the year. And then the last couple of years, I've noticed that I've already, by this point in the year, had already been well on the way into doing that. I haven't started yet, but I will, and I will, of course, talk about it regularly on this very podcast. And you know what I meant to do last weekend? While he was here, I meant to briefly bring Marcus Annasso into the podcastatorium to do a quick shout out for the By the Horns hardcover Kickstarter.
Oh, yeah.
Which I'd asked him to do a drop-in that we could put in. But you and I talked about it last week on our own.
Yeah.
But I thought, this would be great. Marcus and I could be the first person who records in the podcastatorium with us.
Yes.
Other people have visited the podcastatorium and have seen it.
Right.
But no one else has actively recorded in it.
Correct.
With us. And I meant to do that when he was over last weekend, but I forgot.
Oh, well.
What can you do? Well, what you can do is talk about it the way we did, just like right now.
It's true.
Because we did.
That is the thing you could do.
Yeah. And because I am never too far away from an interview or a live microphone, I will be a guest on James Van Osdol. You guys all know JVO. He does the intro and the outro voice of this podcast. You already heard him, unless you just listen to the Patreon version, then you never hear him. But if you're listening to the official release version that has, a song in the front, you hear James at the front and the back, but he's got his own podcast, Car Con Carne, which he started after Contest of Challengers, but he's already lapped us by hundreds of episodes.
Hundreds.
He's in the middle 800s with his, because he does, during the pandemic, he did one every weekday.
Wow. That's a lot.
He did a lot. He does a bunch. But anyway, I will be on it. We will record this Monday. And the premise of Car Con Carne is you eat in the car, in his Mazda 3. I believe the theme song goes something like, it's Car Con Carne, let's eat in the car, it's Car Con Carne, and now here's the star of our show, James Van Osdol.
Okay.
There you have it. And he's always on the hunt for new and exciting restaurants that may not be on people's radar, and it's always fun to take somebody to a place they've never been. I was on this podcast back in 2016, and we went to Burger King because they were doing like a new Whopper burrito or something.
Okay.
So we were there to try that. Also, at that time, I was in the middle of a kidney issue that was brought up on that podcast.
Oh.
So,
Nice how that works out.
Yeah. So anyway, he wasn't sure if I had ever heard of the place we're going to be recording parked in front of on Monday. And he'll send me the directions when it's all ironed out. But it's a little mom and pop joint called Club Lago in River North.
Never heard of it.
Yeah. That's okay. One of the owners, I guess, will be joining us in the car.
Oh, that's too bad.
To talk about the restaurant as well. Well, then we can learn about it and see what it's all about.
Oh, okay, sure.
You know. And there'll be another friend with me for the episode who said, I'm very excited to hear your dynamic on the podcast. And I thought, you don't know me that well yet. My dynamic is, there's a live mic, I won't stop talking.
Yes, that's correct.
However, it is like JVO is always very structured with what he talks about. And he has not an agenda, but he's
prepared.
He wants you to answer a question, then he moves on. He doesn't let me ramble.
That's probably for the best.
I mean, it's
a choice.
Sure.
It's a choice.
Yeah. But also there'll be a surprise for JVO himself in that episode.
Nice.
And if anybody's interested in what that is, they'll have to listen or watch or both, because he does part of it on Facebook Live and then I guess YouTube, but then also an actual, recorded podcast.
Wow.
And the reason behind this is to celebrate our 15th anniversary, but James is always not trying to stump me. He's always he's enamored of the way you or I can recommend books for people, but he likes to throw subjects that don't belong together.
Okay.
And then say, oh, what would you recommend for someone who likes 18th century literature and vampires?
Yeah.
And it's hard to do off the top of your head sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially when you don't have the benefit of walking the store to be like, oh, let me go over to the horror section.
Oh, I mean, that helps
yes.
a lot. There's been times where people have wanted something that is outside of my interests. So if they need something a little bit more esoteric, then I really have to look at the shelves, because it's like the ones I would go to are, I hate to say it this way, too popular for them.
Sure. Yeah. For the record, I would recommend Carmilla. Amy, choose Carmilla to fill that gap.
That's a good idea.
Which I legitimately didn't have an answer when I just put those two things together, but I'm like, that's close enough.
Yeah.
And it's not exactly...
It's a jumping off point.
Yeah. Yeah. But also, he doesn't know enough about the book, so were it to be 18th century literature and vampires, and I'm like, oh yeah, Carmilla, he would just be impressed with how fast that I did it. He wouldn't necessarily analyze the book and be like, well, it's not exactly 18th century now, is it?
Right.
But anyway, so that always keeps me on my toes, and I always know it's coming too. I'm like, what's it going to be? What's it going to be? What about military infantry and swashbuckling?
Krogan's Adventures.
I was literally going to say Chris Schweizer's Krogan Adventures.
Yeah.
This is, and again, I'm not thinking of the books first.
These are easy.
Yeah. That's why he won't pick something easy.
What about superheroes and blind lawyers?
The Sculptor.
Interesting. Good choice.
And Stella hooked us up with people that I'm doing an interview for.
Oh, cool.
Which is a very interesting process, because it's I'm not entirely sure what it's for, but it's a publication or website that does this regularly. So it's all drop-down menus, and it's like, hey, from this section, pick one of these questions. From this section, pick one of these questions.
Oh, okay.
And I find myself answering questions and then going to the next section like, oh, everything I just said works better here. And it's happened 3 times now. It's like, man, I'm not going back and redoing it.
Sure.
But I still have 2 more sections to finish on that. I did a lot of it last night, but we'll see what it's for. And then I got to send them a bunch of pictures as well. So definitely reusing that Kyle Starks one because it works pretty well.
Yeah, it really does.
Well, Willy Willy Dow Dow, I think that we've gone to the end. By the way, if at any point while you were really going into the thing that you hated about that chargeback, if you saw me smiling, it's because I was just reliving RJ City in my head.
Oh, sure. I didn't actually see that. No.
Okay. And I was waiting for a way to organically say Willy Willy Dow Dow. Of the many possibilities.
Yes.
I specifically love that after I had said, like, hey, let's get an RJ City list of what WDAL could be short for. He's like, well, I already did that. And then he gave like 10 more.
Yeah. He's very good at it.
Yeah. What we're talking about is RJ City, who hosts Hey EW on YouTube. I got him to do a message for Dal where I basically, it's not for an occasion, it's not for a reason, it's just because we both love RJ City.
A lot.
And he's so good at just coming up with lists of things.
Like riffing. He's just good at riffing.
But specifically like giving people situations, but like multiple of them. James Van Alzo is really good at like pun horror movie names, things like that.
Sure.
Like that kind of, it just keeps going.
One of the things that RJ City is great at is when like a wrestler has a weird name for a move, he will suggest like 10 or 11 names it could be instead.
Yeah, and that's literally what I wanted out of this.
I think it just came up again because RJ City had done a Hey EW with Toni Storm.
Yeah.
And Toni Storm has a move where she basically runs at an opponent who's sitting down in a turnbuckle corner and basically hits them in the face with her butt at full speed.
It's a hip attack, Dal.
They call it a hip attack, but she's clearly hitting them in the face with her butt. So RJ had a whole bunch of alternatives, and the one that kind of stuck was Sweet Cheek Music. A reference to the Shawn Michaels Sweet Chin Music, Super Kick. And then RJ brought that up again in the little interview segment before the AEW Revolution pay-per-view this past Sunday. So it was kind of fresh in both of our heads. It's like, oh yeah, Sweet Cheek Music. That was really good. Why didn't they stick with that?
To which he said that was the smartest thing he'd ever said.
And honestly, it might be. Which he says a lot of smart, funny things, but Sweet Cheek Music is one of those like really brilliant things where it's like, why wasn't it called that?
So his list of possible Dal names was pretty great, but also frustrating for him because he didn't know why he was doing it.
Yes.
And I didn't explain it to him because I didn't want to explain it to him because I just wanted the list.
You just wanted him to go, and he did. It was 5 minutes of him just being RJ City, and it was fantastic. The only difficult thing was he definitely immediately jumped to the W being... Because you had said it was Will.
Right, because...
It is. But he jumped to it being William. And it's like, it's not William. So, like, William kind of became a weird tangent for him for a while of, like, why not Bill? Why not Billy? And it's like, well,
you could have been Billy D. You could have been a Billy D. Specifically, I said that you go by W. Dow Bush, and the W is short for, stands for Will, but what could Will and Dow both be short for?
Right.
And immediately he's like, W. Like, what? Why am I calling you Dow? But W, listen, W. It's 3 syllables,
1 letter.
For 1 letter. It's the worst abbreviation. WWE. That's such a mouthful. It's terrible.
It is. He's right.
And the number of times he said he hated your name.
Yes.
Was pretty funny.
Oh yeah, no, it was very frustrating to him.
We're not playing it because we don't have permission to.
Correct. Yeah.
I
guess if you come into the store, Patrick probably has it on his phone. I do too.
It definitely worth it. So fun.
Yeah.
And because he's like, Patrick, I don't know what your relationship is to this person or why you're doing this. You didn't tell me anything.
Yeah.
RJ
City, clearly a cameo person who's used to the birthday wishes, get well wishes, anniversary wishes.
And this was none of it.
Christmas wishes.
I completely left the occasion blank.
You were like, hey, let's have some fun here. Let's play around with it. And he was, it clearly was a thing where he was almost like, give me more direction. I need.
But no, that's when he's the best.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You don't want him. You just want him to get up there and freestyle it and see where it goes.
And he did. He went over 5 minutes.
He did. It was great.
It was great.
It was great.
It was only $400. It was so good.
Yeah. The odds of me now wanting to meet
$400.
RJ City in person would be like, hey, you did a cameo for me. Here's my actual name. I will meet you in person and tell you my actual full name.
It's Willie Dal Dal.
Let's see if that...
It's Billy D.
If that makes W. Dal Bush make any more sense or just makes you more furious.
The biggest problem he had was with the Bush. He didn't like the Bush. Because it's just one hard syllable at the end. Oh. And he wants you to add a C.
He did. He thought that would make it more interesting.
What was the name he... If you just have any decency...
Dalentino.
Dalentino
was one of the ones where he's like... because he gets off on this tangent about...
Rudolph Valentino.
Rudy Valentino. And he was... then he's like... you could... As soon as he said Valentino, I could...
You could see it in his face.
He's going to get to Dalentino on this. Yeah. And you can sort of see, like, he turns his head a little bit... And then, like, yes, yeah.
I thought he was going to go Dalhousen at one point. And he almost did.
Uh-huh.
But he brought it back.
Yeah. That was delightful. That almost... It did make up for the chargeback guy. And that was all in one 24-hour period.
Yeah, it wasn't supposed to, but it worked out.
It definitely was like a nice leveling out of like, that's a really good, fun thing that happened because of the internet, as opposed to this other thing that made me want to delete our Shopify site entirely.
Well, from me, Patrick, and from Willie Dal Dal, Billy D Dalentino,
first name is
Hester S.
Hester Jr.
Hester Jr. From Lawrence Welk, from Mario Lanza, from Walt Whitman. Thanks for listening.
Keep reading comics.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. And help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.